Hello, welcome back again to my channel. Today I'll be making this beautiful top with bask and detail at the neck. In my previous video, I already shared the tutorial on how we can draft the pattern for this top. So today I'll just cut the pattern on the fabrics. I use the pattern to cut on the fabric. So this is my fabrics, and here I'm done cutting out the fabrics, the pattern on the fabrics. What I'm doing here is I'm detaching my pin from the paper, which I used to hold it down before cutting. So, and I'm going to be showing you what it looks like. This is our front part of this top. That's the center front, and this is the sides. I'll be joining the sides to the center using my machine. I'll sew it to get our princess dart. So I'll go ahead and sew this later and show you. Let me just show you the back piece so that I can sew everything at the same time and show you. So here is the back piece. As you can see, the back piece doesn't have a bask and there is no detail at the neck area. So this is the side for the back. I'll join these two to get our princess dart. My fabric is very light, so I'm going to attach an stay to it before joining this. So here I'm done joining, sewing it with my machine. I didn't slash open the back piece initially. You know, our back piece is supposed to be two. So here I'm doing it here so that we can get the area where I'll be attaching my zip to. So for everything I've done on the fabric, I repeated it on the lining as well. So I've gone ahead to stitch my lining off camera. Just repeat everything you did on the fabrics on the lining. So here is my front piece. As you can see, our bask. So the next thing I'll be doing here is to join my lining to the fabrics. But here is my lining, as you can see. So before joining the lining to the fabrics, I'll go ahead and work on our front part. So for the front part, you remember that paper I told you I drafted separately in our pattern drafting? I drafted this separately, the neck area. I'm going to be using it here now on the fabrics. So I'll just place that paper on my front part of this top. I'll pin it down with my pin. Then after pinning it down, I'm going to take it to my machine and sew across those cone shape. Those detail at the neck, I will sew around it. I'll sew it round and I'll bring it for you to see. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. Here I'm detaching the paper from the fabrics. Afterwards, I'll be cutting through all the shape I've made at that top. Just watch what I'm doing, you understand what I'm doing. Now I'm cutting through. After cutting the first one, you see we're already getting that shape there. Be careful when doing this so that you don't overcut your fabrics, please. This our shape is coming out nice. I'll just go ahead and cut through every other part. Hope we understand what I'm doing here. It's easy, right? So after cutting through, this is what everything looks like. Now I'll be attaching the lining to the fabrics, but before then, I'm going to bring in, okay, so as you can see here, I'm done attaching the pattern to the fabric, the lining to the fabric, sorry. I'm going to be holding down the shoulder so as to join my back to the front. I'll join my shoulder together, but before that let's finish the front piece. So I'll bring my bias now, and I'll be using my bias to turn round all this pattern I've just made to give it a neat finish. If you notice that details I did at the neck, for the front piece, I did it on the lining as well. So I'll be using my bias to give it a fine finishing. So this is it. After using my bias, I went ahead to join the shoulder as well, as you can see. Next thing I'll be doing here is, let's work on the sides. So I've gone ahead to pin down my zipper allowance area, and I'll be pinning down my top so that there will be no movement while taking my body measurement. So after pinning it down, I'm going to be taking my body measurement. My bust is 36 divided by 2 will have 18. So I'll go ahead and mark it. Then my waist is 28 divided by 2 will have 14. So I'll get ahead and mark 14. Now I'm just going to join it so as to give me a line that I can see and sew through on my machine. So I'll set this aside and go to our sleeves. So I already have this pattern for my sleeve. I'll share a tutorial on how you can draft your basic pattern. I'm going to be doing a slash and spread method for this. So this is going to be a short sleeve. I went ahead to cut that pattern at my elbow area to get a short sleeve. So whatever I have there for the length of this pattern, I'm going to be dividing it into 4. So the length I have there, I'm dividing it into 4. So I'm marking it to what I have there. I'm marking it after dividing it 4. I'm marking all the points. Then I'm going to be ruling straight upwards so as to get my slash and spread. I'm going to be sharing a tutorial on how you can do a slash and spread. I'll do a pattern drafting on how you can do it. But this is actually very easy. You can even cut a free hand. You can cut your sleeves with free hand. Just make sure it is wide enough. So what I'm going to go ahead and number all this before cutting it out. So I'll use my marker to number it as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I'm going to be cutting through. So after cutting, I'm folding my fabrics. For this, I'm making use of 1 yard of fabrics. I'm folding it into 2 equal halves. After that, I'm going to be measuring whatever I have there. Then I'll determine the middle of whatever the length of. I'm going to be dividing it into 2 to get the middle of whatever I have for the length of these fabrics. So I'll be marking it. Now I'll determine the middle, then I'll just mark where the middle is. Now for the length of my top, I'm working with 14 inches. I added 1 inch to it so as to get for the place where I'll be inserting my elastic. So now I'll be placing all my paper, which is the pattern, on these fabrics. So for each paper, I measured 4 inches space before placing it. So that is our number 1 paper. Now I'm going to mark another 4 inches, place the second one and pin it down. I'm going to do the same for the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Afterwards, I'm just going to trace this out with my chalk before cutting it out. So that is what I'm doing here, tracing with my chalk. So after tracing with my chalk, I went ahead to cut it out, and that's what I'm doing, cutting it out with my scissors. Cutting, I'll just detach the paper from the fabrics. So at the end of the day, this is what we have. I had to fold it then notch to get the center of my sleeve so as to make it easy for me when sewing. Now I'm bringing in my fabrics, I mean my top. So we have two sleeves here. I'll just attach my top to the sleeve. While sewing, I'll be pleating the sleeves as I'm sewing, just like you see me do, and I'm going to sew the end and attach my elastic to it. So after sewing, this is what our beautiful top looks like. I hope you try this, and I hope to see you in my next tutorial. Thank you for watching my video. Kindly like, share my video, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button. Thank you. Okay, so
Please
for the back,
subscribe.